You've just graduated, the ink's still wet on your diploma, and by the way, congratulations, you're done with school, about to start making money, enter professional life, life is good. And because I really know that you're the TikTok generation with a short attention span, no offense here, but you know I'm right. I'm gonna try to make this video TikTok style, maybe without the dancing, but I wanna give you 7 quick financial moves that you can put in place right now in the first months and years as you're entering professional life and start making money that will really set you apart and move you ahead of your peers. And listen, I get it. You don't necessarily want to hear about this right now. You're about to start making money. I have graduates in my own family. The response typically is, dude, take a chill pill. I'm here for the good times, not the long times. But looking back, I kind of wish that somebody sat me down, years ago when I started making money in my first job and explained some of these simple things about credit scores, about which kind of debt is okay, which kind of debt I really should be avoiding, which healthcare plan is fine, the retirement accounts, right? That's just a huge choice that suddenly your companies throw at you and expect that you know what to choose from. So all of these things that you really will help you avoid become one of these losers that is still repaying their student loans at 35, 40 years old. All right, let's talk about it. Point number 1, and this is really the biggest mistake that I see by a country mile that people make when they start working, is by not focusing on setting up their retirement accounts. And listen, I get it, right? You're 22, 23 years old. Retirement is like so far out. It's 40, 45 years from now. Who knows if you're even going to be here? Who knows if the planet's going to be here, right? Why focus on this now? Especially now, you need that income. You don't make a ton of money. Why stick a portion of it into a retirement account? But hear me out on these 2 points. Number 1, if you work for a company that has some kind of an employer-sponsored retirement plan, in the United States, it's a 401k plan, for example, but most other countries have these plans too. It's just a different name. Typically, they match a certain portion of whatever you put in these retirement accounts, right? So typically, it's up to 5 or 6%, the company, whatever you put in there, the company will match that same amount. So you're leaving that money on the table that is really free money that the company is offering. And if you don't set this up, you're just leaving it behind. Now, whether it's a 401k plan or an employer-sponsored retirement plan, or if it's just individual retirement accounts, in the United States, again, the pre-tax would be the IRA, the individual retirement account, or the Roth IRA, which is the post-tax money, which I prefer personally because you put money there after you pay tax on it, but then whatever grows there is tax-free forever. That money compounds over time, and if you don't do this for the first 10 years of your life, you only set up these accounts in your 30s, you have left hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes on the table, because over 40 years, this is a huge amount of money that keeps compounding. So you have to set up your retirement accounts. Point number 2, and this is really something that determines so many outcomes in your life when it comes to finances, is having a good credit score. In the United States, it's the FICO credit score. In other countries, it's called something else. But becoming credit worthy, the credit card companies and lenders, is so important, right? Because really, when you're renting an apartment, they check your credit score. When you're getting a mortgage, when you're getting a car loan, these days, even when you're applying for a job, companies very often check your credit score or check you for any past bankruptcies. And kind of that determines whether you're credit worthy, whether you're responsible, right? So building your credit score is so important here. I still remember when I moved to the United States from England, this is 12 years ago, I was an unknown entity in the US, right? I had no credit score at all. So at the time, I just couldn't get a credit card. And I was in my early 30s. I had to get one of these prepaid credit cards where I sent the credit card company $1,500 and they issued me a credit card. And when I spent all the money, I had to kind of replenish the credit. And that was the beginning for me of how to build a credit score. But a high credit score is so important in this country and in most countries, really, because very often it determines whether you get a car loan, whether you are able to get a mortgage, what kind of interest on that mortgage you're getting. So in the United States, you really want to have something that's at least 740 on that FICO score range when it comes to credit. So credit score, and we'll talk about this, about how to improve your credit score in the next couple of points when we talk about credit cards, is so important. Point number 3, and this really ties into the previous point that we talked about the credit score, right? Is you want to become responsible when it comes to how much credit you're taking on. So I typically tell people don't take too much debt on. It's very tempting when you start working, you start making money, seeing all these credit card offers, thrown at you. You go to a store, they offer you a credit card there with some perks or a discount on whatever you're buying. It's just very tempting to open too many accounts. But typically, if you don't have too much debt, but have a diversified source of debt that's really beneficial for your credit score. So for example, let's say you have 2 credit cards that are open and you have a small car loan and you make all of these payments on time. That really helps that credit score rise up very fast. So even if let's say you're buying a car that's not very expensive, you have the money for it, but you're able to get a car loan at a reasonable interest, having that car loan and making these payments on time, and then maybe deciding to repaying the loan in full a year later, but for a number of months making these car payments really helps your credit score go up. Now, point number 4, I want to talk about credit cards. And really, credit cards could be a separate video because I feel like I've played every single trick in the game when it comes to credit cards over the years and kind of learned every single strategy how to be smart about credit cards. But really, when it comes to credit cards, I think that's one of the fastest way for people to get in trouble because, like I said, all these offers are thrown at you. It's very easy to apply, swipe that card. You don't see the money move. You don't see the money leave your hand. And then suddenly you have way too much debt that you're able to repay, right? So just a few tips here when it comes to managing your credit cards. Number 1, you don't want to have too many. You don't want to have too many applications in a short amount of time because that signals to the credit card companies that you're desperate, that you need credit. So when you're applying for credit cards, space it out in time. Number 2, you never want to carry too large of a balance on that credit card. So let's say you get a $10,000 limit on your card. You never want to go above $5,000 of spending in a given month on that credit card. In fact, you want to keep it below 20, 25, maybe 30% of that available credit because again, you're signaling to the credit card companies that you're desperate, that you're using a lot of that credit. So keep the balances low. 3, always repay the full statement each month because if you don't repay the full statement, if you just pay that minimum amount, or even if you don't pay that minimum amount, you suddenly have penalties, you have interests, and these interests on the credit cards, that's 20, 23, 25, 28% interest that keeps compounding, right? That's the fastest way to get out of control. Number 4, in this credit card kind of subsection here, if you have student loans and credit cards, always prioritize your credit cards because they carry the higher interest typically. Now, finally, if you do end up carrying a balance and you're just not able to repay that, well, the last trick in the game here is to get another credit card. So this is the one time where getting a new credit card is okay, but you want to get a credit card that offers you a 12 or 18 months of a transfer balance offer, right? So typically you'll get a card that allows you to transfer a balance from another credit card into this new credit card for 18 months. And for those 18 months, you will not pay any interest. Simply, you just pay a 3% fee for the amount that you're transferring. So effectively, that's like a 3% loan, and that should help you, give you that time, those 18 months or 12 or 18 months, however long that is, to get your stuff under control, repay that balance, and kind of avoid paying that huge, 20-something interest that these credit cards typically charge, and you just pay that 3% transfer fee for that balance transfer. So point number 5 here, just briefly about student loans, right? I had student loans when I was studying and I repaid them when I started working. It took me, I think, 2 or 3 years before I repaid all my student loans. But the main piece of advice here is, don't ignore your student loans. Whether it's a federal kind of student loan or a privately issued student loan, my view here is that you took out a student loan that allowed you to educate yourself, get your diploma, get that job that hopefully now allows you to repay the student loan. If you're not able to repay your student loans, contact the company that you owe the money to, restructure it somehow, renegotiate the payments. There's plenty of companies today that offer advice in this space. If it's a federal issued student loan, there's various programs from forbearance to deferment that allow you to kind of renegotiate, postpone the payments or freeze the interest on these loans. But this is something that you are responsible for. This is the first sign of your responsibility. And again, I don't want to sound like your parents here or the teachers, but my view simply is make a plan for the student loans. You really have to get rid of them as fast as you can, because if you carry those student loans for years to come, that will really hamper any wealth creation that you are able to kind of generate well into your 30s and 40s. And I just, in the United States, this is completely out of control at this point. There are people that are retiring and still owe money on student loans, and I think that's just ridiculous, right? So you want to really try your best to repay the student loans as fast as you can. Now, point number 6, and again, this is very often neglected for the first few years because, again, people start working, they don't need their money, they have expenses, they just don't have a lot of extra income. But you really want to try to force yourself to start investing early. You want to open an investment account, and even if it's $100 a month or $100, $200 a month, just put it in that investment account and start buying companies, start investing, even if it's just a diversified index for the market like the S&P 500, or if it's individual companies that you like, you're a consumer of and you eat at Chipotle and you really like Chipotle, or you work out in Lululemon clothes, whatever it is, you can buy stocks of these companies because, again, you're a customer, you know the company, you hopefully follow the story and where the company is heading. You want to start investing early because, again, this is money that, first of all, it's kind of like you hide it from yourself, right? You put it in these accounts and you kind of forget about it. But one day you'll find a lot more money in that account because, again, it keeps growing, it keeps compounding. These companies over time, even, I'm making this video in a bear market of 2022 or just before the summer 2022. The market really doesn't look good, but if you invest on a regular basis, you kind of ride out all of these waves. And as the economic growth, keeps happening, companies keep growing, earnings keep growing over time, these stock prices go up. So if you invest on a regular basis, just like when you're putting money in the retirement accounts, we talked about point number 1, you're really setting yourself up for the future. And if you can sacrifice $100 or $200 of your expenses today, just maybe forget that one night a month that you would be going out and spending $100, put it in your investment account. And I know this is hard when you're 22, 23 years old. I certainly didn't do this. But again, I wish that somebody back then sat me down and said, hey, I still remember in 2008, 2010, Square, right? Square, PayPal, all these companies, when they were coming up, I really liked that product. I remember Jack Dorsey was on the cover of Fast Company magazine. Kind of wish that back then I put some money in Square. Just like people today say, I wish I put money in Bitcoin in 2013. So you want to, again, start diversifying, start investing, and just hide that money from yourself. Put it in something that you trust, that you identify with, and one day you'll find a lot more money in that account. Now, finally, the last point I want to talk about, if you've been working for a few months, at this point, you kind of understand how much money is coming in, where you're spending the money, how much is your rent, how much is your transportation, your healthcare insurance, how much money you're putting towards your student loans, how much you spend in entertainment, going out, all of these items, right? Ultimately, if you make a little bit of a budget, you do it simply on a paper, or there's a ton of budgeting apps these days, and I'm going to make a separate video, I think, on those budgeting apps, but it's very easy to understand whether you're on the road to success or whether you're kind of on the road to trouble, because the last thing you want to do is put yourself through the stress of answering these phone calls where credit card companies start chasing you for unpaid credit card debt, and you suddenly kind of get in this spiral that is just turning into a huge problem, right? So understanding your budget, living within your means. And again, I know that nothing is more important than that new Apple Watch, the latest iPhone that just came out. But again, you started working, you have to be responsible when it comes to your finances, because you will end up paying the price in your 30s and 40s if you don't set yourself up to success right now. Last thing I want to say here, and I kind of want to use this concept that sometimes you see in the movies of, what would happen if I went back in time with the brain and the knowledge that I have today. And I kind of want to use this video as, hopefully giving you guys that just graduated, and again, congratulations, finished school, about to start working, or maybe you've been working for a couple of years. Hopefully I can help you with your personal finances, avoid some of the mistakes that I made personally, that other people make every single day. Some people never learn, right? Some people are in their 40s, 50s, and they just keep screwing up over and over when it comes to managing their finances. So hopefully this will help you hear it from somebody that is not part of your circle, part of your family, but kind of a general wisdom of what I have seen, throughout my life, whether it was in my job as investment banker, trader, hedge fund manager, or simply just, from my friends and in my circles that I've seen make these financial mistakes and not set themselves up for success when it comes to managing their finances and kind of building wealth for the years to come. So hopefully this will help you. Once again, thanks for hanging out today with me. Give a like to the video if you enjoyed this. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I'll see you soon.